Hey there, responders and RMPs. Chrissy Brooks here with something a little different. I'm going to call these responder calls. Essentially what it is, it's a little micro learning session for you to learn about different things in the DMP. I'll have a different topic. These are going to come out every 2 weeks. So bi-weekly, I will email you a link and the password to get into these is going to be DMP in all capitals. So DMP is going to get you into these videos on my YouTube channel. So today we are going to talk about Veolia inventory verification, Veolia pickups, and manifest training. I picked this topic because it's what's going on in my area right now. So you'll see a lot of information from centers that are in my territory. All right, so what do I do with this inventory verification paper? You get lots of emails into your team email, and the inventory verification is no exception. That one will be coming into your team email. How am I notified of a pickup? What email attachments am I getting? Well, I'm going to explain them to you. Who is going to show up at my pickup, and where do I find this training that I need to know? Because you know what? You're going to need to know more about these pickups, and you also have to take the training to officially be official to sign the manifest. All right, and then we're going to talk about the why. Why do we do this? So you are going to receive an email just like this one on the screen that says that you have a pickup schedule notification. So it is going to have 3 email attachments in there. The first one is going to be your billing material summary. The second one is going to be your container inventory verification. And then the last one is your inventory worksheet. We need to print all 3 of these pieces of paper. All 3 of them are very important for our inventory verification. How do we get notified that we have a pickup date scheduled? So after we get the inventory verification papers, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, you will get a notification, an email that looks just like this one, Central Pickup Schedule for week of, and it's going to give you the dates that your building is scheduled to be picked up. These are rough guesstimates of when they're going to be there. A lot of times they are running behind towards the end of the week. If you notice towards the end of the week there, they just have two buildings so that on Friday he can catch up. Paul is usually our driver in this area, so I've gotten to know Paul very well. And a lot of times the reasons that they're running behind is because of mistakes that we make. So I wanted to do this call so that we would have a better understanding of what we needed to do so that we were prepared when Veolia shows up. So the first piece of paper that you're going to print is going to be this damaged material billing summary. What you want to do with that, first, you want to check right here and make sure that this is your facility's information. You want to make sure that your facility is listed as the generator. The next thing that you want to check is that your pickup date is correct. So this one was happening clear back in February of February of 24, not quite 04. It's not quite that old. Then we want to count how many drums it has here. So for us, it has 13. So we just want to count and make sure that we have 13 drums. That's our very first thing we're going to do. So we're going to check that we're the generator. We're going to check that the pickup date is correct. Then we're going to check that, yes, we have 13 drums on site. That's all that we need to do with this piece of paper. The next piece of paper is your container inventory verification. So this is where you and a fellow RMP or a fellow responder will take this piece of paper to your storage area, and what you're going to be doing is checking that everything in this white box, particularly especially this wording on this second line where it starts with the UN number, we want to verify that that matches. So UN 1950 waste aerosols flammable, each not exceeding 1 liter capacity, 2.1 limited quantity, and then your waste code should be D001. You want that to match exactly this information. Also, you want to be listed as the generator on here. You want to make sure that it's the right size container. So you want to make sure that it is a 5-gallon container. And of course, you want to make sure that your container number is matching. So we want to make sure that all of this information matches all of this information on our cutout. That's how we go through, and you're going to do that for every single drum, every single damage that you have. If you're a drum site, you'll do it for every drum, and as you're doing that, you're also going to pull out every damage and check it, which I will go into more detail here in just a second. If you're a bucket site, you're going to do it for every bucket, and we will be checking files, and we will be checking, also checking what's inside of that bucket. So this is how I do my container inventories. This is at one of my facilities that I help out because they have a lot of them. This is 70 buckets that they have being picked up tomorrow. And I set all of the buckets out in container number order, not permanent ID, not temporary ID. I set them up in container number order. Then I take the file folder for each container and I set that file folder on top of the bucket. Once I have all the buckets laid out, all of the file folders laid out, first thing I do, I go one by one. I take the file folder. In a bucket site, it needs to have 4 pieces of paper minimum. So we need to have our full container report signed. We need to have our confirmation page. We need to have our container label report. And we need to have the original DMN. So that file folder should have a minimum of 4 pieces of paper in it. What you're going to do once you check that file folder, if it is all correct, you're going to take the file folder, you're going to put your initials and the date, and then OK, so that whoever you're sending these files to knows that yes, this file has been checked, it's okay, it has all the papers in it that it needs to. The next thing that I do, I set the file folder aside, I take the lid off the bucket, I make sure that the gooseneck is good, so I make sure that it's taped, that it's flipped over, that it's taped again, and then it has the permanent and the temporary IDs also taped down. And then I grab the bucket, I lift the green bag out, and I make sure that there's a spill pad in the bottom. In your drum sites, you're going to make sure that there's a boom in the bottom. We want to make sure that we have that absorbent material in the bottom of our containers just in case. Those green bags do breathe when they're being transported. They do breathe when they're being stored in our facilities. So we want to make sure that we have that extra absorbent pad down there in the bottom. So we've checked our buckets. We've made sure that that's good. We've checked our file folder, made sure that that's good. Now we're going to take our inventory verification sheet and we're going to take that line for that bucket and we're going to compare it to our cutout on our actual bucket. So we're going to look at the inventory verification. We're going to look at the sticker on the bucket on our cutout on our waste label, and we're going to make sure that those two match. If they do not match, you are going to write that information on your discrepancy worksheet, which is the next sheet that we're going to talk about. So, discrepancy worksheet. If you have a discrepancy, so you have a drum and it's missing. You don't have bucket number 00000018. You're going to write it on here. Bucket 000018 not on site. That way, Veolia knows that they're not going to come and pick up that bucket. If you have something discrepancy in the description, you're going to write that. You're going to write the bucket number, the container number, and what the difference is. So we want to make sure that we're giving them all of the information that we can. If you don't have any discrepancies, Fantastic. That is great. We're going to write no discrepancies on this form. You're going to write your name. You're going to put your phone number. You're going to put the date that you filled it out. And then their email address is right here. Just like a DMN, just like if we were sending them an SDS, we're going to scan this and email it to disposal.services@avantersciences.com. That way they are going to receive this discrepancy worksheet and they can make any fixes that they need to before the pickup, or they know that everything on that list is going to be ready for pickup. Now, the issue that we run into a lot of times, this inventory verification form has to be returned to Avanter within 48 hours of receipt. So we need to return this within 48 hours. That's why it is very, very important that we are checking our team email box at the very least every other day. Definitely more like every day is what we want to be doing. So check that email box, because we never know when these pickups are coming. They just kind of spring them on us, and then we find out about them through our email. So make sure that we're checking that team email, because if we do not complete this inventory verification form and you're missing a bucket or there's a discrepancy, the Veolia driver will not pick that bucket up, or obviously if it's not there, they're going to pick it up. But if we did not let them know about it, we still pay for it. And then when they do come and pick it up, we pay for it again. So we don't want to pay for the bucket twice. We only want to pay for it once. So make sure that we're getting that discrepancy worksheet finished on time. So who's going to show up at the pickup? Like I said, Paul is the regular driver here in the Midwest, in our area. He brings his great big semi onto the lot. In the bigger buildings, he'll back it up to a dock door if he can. Smaller buildings, he's going to try to park it by the door that's closest to your storage area. Make sure that you let your people know that you have a pickup coming in case someone opens the door for him, so that they know you're the person that they need to come and look for. The person who signs and handles this pickup needs to be manifest trained. They need to have taken the LMS training. They need to be listed on your manifest trained list that is posted both in your DMP and in your drum or bucket storage area. Now, when Paul hands you these, or the Veolia driver hands you these forms, do not sign them. What you want to do, you want to look over these forms and compare them to the inventory verification sheet that he gave you. So this form says that you have X number of buckets. You want to make sure that he's taking X number of buckets. So the form says that he's picking up 4 buckets. You want to make sure that he's taking 4 buckets. Then when he's all done doing what he does, he puts his stickers on them and he will load them into his truck. Then you will both sign these papers together and he will show you where you need to sign. So do not sign these papers until the Veolia driver is instructing you where to sign them. Now, if you have discrepancies on site, he is going to notate those discrepancies on this manifest worksheet and you will have to initial off on them. So make sure that you're not signing it ahead of time until you've gotten that okay from the Veolia driver that everything is ready to go. So where am I going to find more information about this? Because obviously in the almost 15 minutes that I've been talking, I don't cover everything. So there's 2 trainings that you need to have to be able to sign the manifests. Number 1 is LMS 0380. The other one is 1158. 0380 is called Manifest Training, and it's going to run you through step by step exactly what's going to happen, both with inventory verification and when Veolia shows up at your door to do the pickup. 1158 is RCRA training. So that's the RCRA training. And that is going to talk to you about being a generator, talk to you about the cradle to grave, all of those kinds of things that go along with the DMP. If you're a responder, you are required to have 1158. If you are a responder, you are not necessarily required to have 0380. So it's possible that you do not have 0380 training just because you are a responder. Talk to your management team and find out, or contact your health and safety supervisor. They can let you know what training you have done and if you need to complete that 0380. So why? Why do we do this? Well, manifests are very, very closely monitored by the DOT. This is hazardous waste in transport. That is the most dangerous kind of hazardous substance that can be shipped in transport. Hazardous waste is very dangerous. And we're responsible as the generator, right? We're responsible from the time that it's created until it goes to its grave. So from its cradle to its grave, UPS is responsible for it. So it's very important that we do these manifest papers correctly. We have a responsibility to ourselves, to our coworkers, to the outside environment, to our communities, to do this correctly, to handle hazardous materials correctly and quickly, okay, and safely. If your storage area is full and you need an extra pickup, please talk to your environmental coordinator. They will get one scheduled for you, or talk to Veolia, hopefully get somebody in there soon enough. Another why, governmental regulatory agencies. I love saying that word. It's such a big word and it sounds so important, but that's why we do everything that we do. Literally everything that we do in the DMP is regulated by governmental regulatory agencies. That's why we do it. So if you run into issues, please, as always, I am just a phone call away. You guys know that. You know how to get a hold of me. Lots of you email me. Lots of you send me messages. And I really appreciate you guys reaching out when you need help. When the pickup is all done, make sure that you contact your environmental coordinator to find out what they want you to do with the paperwork. Some environmental coordinators have you do different things. I know in my area, both in Nebraska and in Iowa, you will be bundling your file folders as well as all of your manifest papers and be sending it to your environmental coordinator for storage. But I am not aware of what other states do, so please get in touch with your environmental coordinator. If you have any questions, please reach out. We don't want to make mistakes on this stuff. We don't want to do it incorrectly. So please, please, please reach out. I appreciate you being here for my little micro learning, and I look forward to seeing you guys again in 2 weeks. Have a great, safe couple of weeks. See you later.